I genuinely cannot believe that I'm making this video right now. So for those of you who may have missed it, about 2 months ago, I made a video called The Worst Roblox FPS Game Ever. And in that video, I talked about Hunting Season. To put it lightly, this game was not fun at all and had several extremely glaring issues that, like, to this day, to be perfectly honest with you, I still have no idea how all of these things were just seemingly either not acknowledged at all or completely ignored up until my video came out on the game. But regardless of the reasonings behind why they weren't fixed before, the thing that absolutely astonished me was that I got a message from someone probably a little over a month after this video came out, where they basically told me that everything that I complained about almost in the entire video was patched out of the game. The DM from Penguin said, "Hey Eclipse, you know how you made a video on Hunting Season, the shit hunting game, where you talked about how the game sucked and what could be done to improve it? Well, it looks like they took it to heart and actually did it, because as far as I remember, this is most of the things that you talked about. And the things on the list are dead animals are now highlighted, auditory hit feedback was added, the entire sensitivity disaster was removed, aiming is no longer immediately canceled after firing your gun, recoil as a whole was reduced, the recoil animations were improved, bullet impacts on the ground were added in order to show you where your bullet is actually hitting, the AI got substantially improved, and at that point they had added one new animal to the game." Now, as they mentioned at the end of their message, the walking speed is still a problem, and it's something that we're absolutely going to address again, but it seems to them like they genuinely took my advice and that I should do a follow-up video on the game. And so, while it's definitely a little bit late, this is the video, the follow-up video for Hunting Season. And I am astonished to report that for the first time ever, I have to remove an Eclipse Seal of Shit. Yeah, that's right, this is the first game to ever get the Eclipse Seal of Shit, and now it's the first game to ever lose the Eclipse Seal of Shit. Because honestly, this is the perfect showcasing of how developers should react to the videos that I put out rather than how they do. And the most hilarious part about this, and definitely the L that I'm going to have to take here, is that one of the reasons that I was so mean in that video was because I was 100% certain that nothing was going to come of it. You may have noticed it up until this point, but how mean I am to games generally coincides with how likely I believe the people behind it are to actually take feedback into account and make the game better. I also try to take into consideration how surface level and obvious a lot of the issues that I'm running into are with how mean I am, because if it looks like the game developers simply never bothered to boot up their own game to play it to run into the blatantly obvious problems that it has, then of course I'm going to be harsh about it. If it's as simple as booting it up and testing out the game yourself, and it seems like you haven't even done that, that's the bare minimum. Generally speaking, I try to give the same amount of feedback, just in case in some just far-off La La Land scenario like this one, the people behind it see the video, just look past all of the name calling I did and go, "Hey, yeah, our game does kind of suck actually, let's fix that." But the end-all be-all is that I returned to play the game again, and it is absolutely astonishing how much more fun the game is when it functions. The simple addition of being able to tell where your bullets are going to land, as well as telling when you've actually hit an animal with your bullet, is just something that can't be understated. You don't even really realize how much decision-making goes into how you decide to go about trying to continue your hunt based on whether or not you've hit an animal or if you haven't. To give you an easy example, if you know that you've got an animal bleeding and running away, you can continue to chase after it because generally speaking, you know that it's gonna bleed out, and so you just need to follow the trail until it dies. If you get a chance, you can shoot it another 1 or 2 times in order to make it bleed out faster, but most of the time, one shot's all you need and then you just need to follow it. On the flip side though, if you take a shot and you miss, and then you take any more follow-up shots and they also miss, a lot of the time it's just not worth trying to chase after the animal, because every time you get remotely close, it's going to notice you again, run away again, and that's just not worth doing. This little interaction in of itself simply can't exist with the previous systems, and it makes playing the game oh so much better. In terms of accuracy, like I said, the addition of being able to see where my bullets are landing and the ability to tell when I am leading enough, in that I can hear when my bullets do land, made it so that way I probably had roughly 70 to 80% accuracy on my shots fired, versus the last time where, honest to God, it was probably closer to 20% because I could never tell when I was hitting anything. And when you couple that with the fact that the sensitivity doesn't implode upon itself and I can actually aim at what I'm trying to shoot at without having to bump up my mouse DPI to like 8 million, and well, like I said, really what it comes down to is the game works. And sure, maybe that's a low bar, right? The game went from being a complete pile of garbage to the game actually works. And maybe I'm being too nice to it, but I think it deserves it. I think that they deserve credit for taking a game that was an unfun pile of crap and making me actually enjoy playing it. Like, I had fun. Now, that said, despite there definitely being a lot of improvements to the game, I still think that there's a fair amount that the people behind this can continue to be working on to make it an actually solid game, because in a lot of ways, to be perfectly honest with you, it still feels almost sort of like a tech demo. It absolutely still feels like a running simulator a lot of the time, and there's just a couple flaws that make me scratch my head as to why they're there. The number one issue that I ran into while playing Hunting Season again, and something that I really couldn't take too much of an account to in the previous video because I could never actually hit any of the things that I was shooting at, is now that I knew where to aim and knew how to compensate for the bullet drop, we actually got segued into a completely different problem, which is headshots in of themselves. I think the way that headshots are handled in Hunting Season as of right now is very flawed. And maybe this is just going to be a preference thing. Maybe the developers fundamentally disagree with me on this. Maybe the players who still play fundamentally disagree. But regardless, here's my take. I think that if you shoot an animal in the head, regardless of which part of the head that you hit, the animal should drop dead just right there. As it stands in the game current, that is not at all how it works. Don't believe me? Well, just take a look at some of the examples on screen right now. You just cannot tell me that if a deer took a shot straight to the face, but it didn't specifically go through their brain, that they just they don't care. They're gonna keep running away until they bleed out. I don't buy that at all. Or how about this one where I'm shooting at a bear? Are you really going to tell me that the bear is able to absorb all of these shots to its head without any of them hitting the brain until basically the very last shot? Now, I get it. They wanted to do their little organ systems, and the brain is technically the critical hit zone for the headshot. So you need to be ultra specific on where you hit the head in order to get a one-shot kill. But once again, in my own personal opinion, I think if you hit an animal in the head, regardless of where it is, it should be dying. It's just so awkward that shooting an animal through the ass is the exact same effect as shooting them straight on through the mouth. But the thing is, even on the same vein as talking about the idea of the brain shot in order to get a one-shot kill, I think there's another pretty hefty issue with the game when it comes to its critical hit zones, and that big problem is trying to actually see where you're supposed to shoot in order to get critical hits. As it is right now, I'm well aware that you can hit animals in the brain to kill them, and you can hit them in the lungs. And if you hit them in the lungs, it also does a ton of damage and usually kills them shortly after they get hit there. I have to assume that you can probably hit animals in the heart to kill them straight away as well, but the main issue here is that it's all guesswork. I really think that there ought to be diagrams or skeletal analysis that you can do somewhere in the menus of the game in order to show you exactly where you'd want to be shooting in order to hit critical hits, so that way if I'm in a situation where I can't hit a headshot, for example, I can try to aim for the lungs or the heart or what have you. But as it is right now, I have no idea how small of a hitbox those specific areas are. I don't know exactly where they're going to be, and I'm just sort of guessing, and sometimes I get lucky, and that doesn't feel like it should be that way. If I'm specifically going out to hunt these animals, you'd think that I would have the resources to look at where their bodily organs are going to be so that way I know where to shoot. So I think the introduction of something like that, along with headshots just flat out being headshots, would help a lot to alleviate the feeling that I got towards the end of my play session, where I would just sort of shoot no matter where it was in order to get a pure hit and not try to aim for vitals because, well, I didn't know where to shoot, or I didn't have any guarantee that the vital hit would even go through and it wouldn't just count the headshot as, oh, flesh, they're running away now. Now, while we're on the topic of damage models, we can also talk about the fact that I felt like in a lot of ways, the type of weapon that I was using almost didn't really matter. For the sake of the video, I decided to try to unlock at least all the way up until the second to last weapon in the game. As the AR-15 is unlocked at level 60, it would be a big grind and I didn't think it was worthwhile. But I ended up using all of the weapons that I could have used aside from one, and in general, they pretty much all felt the same, which is weird because they definitely shouldn't have all felt the same. And my best example for you would be the difference between using the Remington 700 rifle and the last real bolt-action rifle in the game. You see, the Remington 700 and this last bolt-action don't have magazines and can only fire one shot at a time. So they feel almost identical to each other, but the big difference between the two rifles is supposed to be that the R700 can shoot a lot faster, but doesn't do as much damage. And presumably the other rifle is a lot slower in its projectile velocity, but it can dish out big damage. And on the menus itself, it lists it as able to hunt bears and stuff. And so you'd think picking this up for, if I remember correctly, 80 grand, which is a lot of money, you would expect the weapon to perform in that it would almost be like an elephant gun, where if you shot just about anything that wasn't really big, like a moose or a bear, that it would just drop dead on the spot. Right? Well, no. Just like any of the other weapons in the game, you bonk just about anything and then it starts running away and eventually it bleeds out. Like I said, it's like this for basically every single weapon. Most of the time, you're only ever able to land one, maybe two shots before whatever you're shooting at runs out of your line of sight, and then you don't see it until it's bled out. So in the case of this thing, just like with any other rifle, you hit it once, then the thing dips, and it dies. It's just so weird because you'd think that the progression by this point would be giving you a weapon that made you feel really powerful. After all, it's not like the animals that you're hunting are changing throughout the game, so if you're hunting all the same stuff, it should feel different, but it just doesn't. And this is the most extreme example, but it applies across every other weapon in the game. And what it comes down to is I really just think that there needs to be better differentiation between all of the different weapons that are in the game right now, because they all kind of feel identical and feel, at least to me, like they perform almost identically. And so then it ends up begging the question on why even bother upgrading other than you might as well because there's nothing else to really spend your money on. But the elephant in the room when it comes to issues with the game, in my opinion, is still the movement speed. Guys, listen. If you're watching this video and you made this game, I understand that you want to sell the Game Pass for the ATV. I get it. And so you made the players slow on purpose so you could sell the Game Pass so people would drive around the ATV. I know. And here's what I'm gonna tell you, is that I got up to level 25 for the specific case of unlocking the ability to get the ATV to see if that really was like just as important as you guys probably seem to think it is. And you know what? I'll give you some credit. Initially, I was really pissed off that you had to buy the ATV per server, but considering just how overpowered it is, I can't even fault you too much for that, because the 10K that you spend for getting the ATV pays itself back in like maybe 10 minutes. And then everything after that is pure profit. There's to say that the ATV is so colossally overpowered to every possible degree that I can comfortably say that there would be absolutely no effect on ATV sales nor the power of the ATV if you literally doubled the player speed right now without changing anything else. Because the end all be all is that you are still so painfully fucking slow in this game, and it can still make it feel like a chore to play. The animals are fast, guys. It's not like you're gonna be outrunning them if you move a little bit faster. And as I already said, the ATV outruns every single animal in the game. The difference between before you get the ATV and after you get the ATV is night and day, and it's not going to change if you're slightly quicker. The ATV is still going to be hands down the best way to hunt things. It's still going to let you outrun things and turn you into an industrial hunting killing machine. So I just don't know why there seems to be this like line in the sand drawn where you must move at the slowest possible speed. Animals end up detecting you from like 8 miles away anyway. So really, a lot of the time, if you want to get any sort of critical shots, you have to do it from far away as it is. And the amount of time that it would take to get close while moving at the snail's pace that you do while normally walking or crouch walking is never worth it compared to just taking a pot shot and then running after whatever you hit while it's bleeding to death. So I am just begging you, for the people who continue to want to play this game, for the sake of them, for the love of God, make the player move faster, because it is pitiful. But other than that, I mean, there's not a whole lot of other things that I think are really important for me to bring up. I did mention in the previous video that I felt that it was very strange that they only had one map in the game, and to this day, I still believe that that's a bit of a missed potential. There's definitely room for hunting on snowy peaks or dry deserts, stuff like that, and I think that would definitely help the game a lot, as currently it kind of feels like you're just in one biome, one little forest wandering around, and that's about it. I also thought it was really weird that still, as of now, it seems to me like there's not really any real predators in the game that can give you a run for your money just by, you know, screwing up and not killing them quick enough. I had one showdown with a grizzly bear where it looked like it was coming straight at me, so I have to assume that it was probably trying to kill me, but it never got close enough to actually succeed. And then the only other times that I ran into a grizzly bear was after I'd already gotten the ATV, and they always run away from the ATV no matter what, even if I'm literally standing right in front of them, not on the ATV anymore. They still don't care and continue to run away as I pepper them with bullets. And as I said, since the bear never actually got to me, I don't even know if it's programmed to try to attack you. But it just seems weird that there's no point that you get to where there's predators that try to attack you. And it seems like double missed potential because there's a day-night cycle that I don't think existed the last time I played. And you would think that at nighttime, maybe some predators would come out and make it a little bit more difficult. Maybe you'd have to contend with wolves in the forest or something like that, but nope, that just never happens. In fact, nighttime itself is just sort of a nuisance, as it makes it really hard to see, but doesn't actually provide anything. So honest to God, if you didn't have an ATV on that server, it might even be worth just quitting and starting up a new one so that way you don't have to wait through the nighttime where you can't see. The flashlight is basically just completely useless. And we've already talked about how anything will hear you from 8 miles away long before you get a chance to shine a flashlight on it anyway, so I don't know, it just feels out of place. And I guess on a final note, when we're talking about quitting and rejoining the game and that kind of deal, the fact that you can't just fast travel to areas that you've found straight from the map, and in order to go to a new place without having to walk all the way there, you have to reset your character and commit suicide in order to respawn in an area, or completely quit out of the game to the main menu and then pick a new spot, just feels so counterintuitive. Just let us fast travel from the map. Overall though, unlike the first time that I played this game, I did not hate hunting season. So it'll be linked in the description. If you, for some reason, like hunting games and you think this looks interesting, then you can go give it a shot. It's nothing groundbreaking, but it's not a complete embarrassment anymore, and I have to give props for the people behind it for making it not a complete embarrassment. Good stuff, guys. Anyways, that's all. So if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe. If you didn't, don't. And with all that being said, have a wonderful day night wherever you are, and I'll see you guys next time.